One of the smartest things that I've started to do in my life is not arguing with people, especially strangers. The reason I want to talk about this today is because I see a lot of people online, in comments, social media in general, sometimes even in person on the streets, when you see people road raging, when you see people on the streets just like having an argument in supermarkets, or like there's a lot of people on social media who like to just go up to people, ask them a controversial question, and they like go into it and have like a little back and forth, and they use that content, like put it up there on the internet. The reason I feel like arguing with strangers and debating with strangers is a huge waste of time, that's because you don't know the person and they don't know you. Part of me feels like there is a little bit of value to having a debate with someone, or like arguing with a stranger about something that you think is valuable that they don't think is valuable, but they have things that they value and their beliefs are this and your beliefs are this, and you guys just like go back and forth. Like, for what? I'm not saying I'm perfect. I still have times in my life where I just argue with people for like literally no apparent reason. I'm like this with my dad a lot, where like him and I love going back and forth on certain things, but my dad's the type who like doesn't like to listen, and he's very traditional in his beliefs. And maybe my dad is a very maybe my dad's a very bad example. Certain people just don't have the emotional intelligence to know what to say and when to say it in certain situations. This is going to be a relatively quick nugget of information that has helped me with my mental health and learning to just like value my own time and energy. It's to not waste it on people who don't even know who you are, why your beliefs are the way they are, because sometimes you will say something and people will take it completely out of context, especially strangers and the people who you don't even know. I find the most impactful conversations that I can have are the ones with people who actually know me, people who know what my beliefs are, why they are that way, what my experiences have been like, what my childhood has been like. Basically, those who know my story, those are the best people to have debates with, because those are the people who will not hesitate in challenging you. And that's what I want to be at the end of the day, is challenged. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that not all strangers are going to argue with you. Some strangers may actually have some good things to say, but there is no point in talking to someone that isn't going to like value and actually listen to your reasoning and why you are saying something. Because when you argue with a stranger, it tends to get personal. If there is no like formality behind having a conversation with someone, then there is no point in having a conversation at all. Because I've had conversations with some people that I feel like at the start of them will actually go somewhere, but then like 15, 20 minutes go by and we're just like arguing back and forth about why I'm right or why they're right, and literally nothing gets done. And I feel like that's what the problem is in our society nowadays, where no one is willing to listen to what someone else has to say, and everyone's so rooted in their own beliefs that it's so hard for them to get out of that mindset. I may also be shooting myself in the foot here a little bit, because I sometimes am that person too, where I can have a hard time breaking out of the way I think. The perfect example of this is my own parents. There are a lot of things that I do disagree with about how my parents think. But part of me also has to understand that, look, when I get older, there are certain things that they're telling me now that will come true and that will be right. And I just have to accept that. I'm young, I'm stubborn, and part of me doesn't want to listen sometimes. But I already know that some of the things that they tell me, they're going to be right. They absolutely will be right. It's a big generational difference between my parents and I in the way that we think. But the reason I say I feel like I'm shooting myself in the foot a little bit here is because it's so easy to argue with someone. As soon as you see something that gets you triggered, it's like, dude, I'm gonna have to say something. I'm gonna have to put my thought out there. I'm gonna have to put my belief out there. And some people are like, oh my God, like, yes, voice your opinion, use your voice and all that. But there's also times where like we shouldn't do that. Like that example that I just gave, people who go out and just ask controversial questions to people. Hey, what do you think about this policy? Or what do you think about men and women? Or what do you think about this social issue? What do you think about this thing? And I get their vision and I get their point behind doing it. However, if they're not able to like explain their thinking at length, or if they're not even able to get a sentence out without being interrupted, then there's no point in having a conversation with someone. this is coming from someone who is all about having conversations with strangers and like going up and meeting people and hearing their stories. But the goal is never to get into an argument with a stranger about beliefs or politics or anything like that. There's a empathy that goes behind it. There's a way to have that conversation and do it in a respectful, empathetic way. I just don't know why people spend so much time arguing with people that they don't even know and that they like the other person doesn't even know who they are. Like, what the heck's the point? The world would be 1% better, maybe 5% better if people sometimes just like keep their own thoughts to themselves in certain situations and gain a little bit more emotional intelligence behind when to say something and when not to say something. Again, coming from someone who has made a lot of dumb decisions and said a lot of dumb things in wrong moments and wrong times that has caused me to lose friends, not have the best relationships, but it's also taught me to learn to work on it. And I cannot dwell on past mistakes that I have made with friendships that I've ruined just simply because of me arguing with someone or saying the wrong things at the wrong time. And that all comes from the heat of the moment, not being emotionally aware, not being intelligent with when to say something. The biggest thing I want you guys to take out of this podcast today is if you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel the urge to say something to a stranger that you don't even know because you think their beliefs or way of thinking is flawed, don't do it. Don't do it, especially if you know it's going to spark some sort of debate and especially if it's going to spark some sort of back and forth because you don't know them. They don't know you. You don't know why they think the way they think. And yes, part of you wants to be like, "Hey, why do you think this way?" And then they'll tell you. And then you'll be like, "No, I think it's like this," or "What made you come to that conclusion?" I think there are very few handful of people that are willing to take on that type of confrontation and that type of conversation for their like beliefs to actually be challenged. And even if that situation should arise, it should be done in a way where there's a right time and place for all of that. Just try to argue with strangers less. If you do. If you don't, then this doesn't apply to you, but I just don't understand why a lot of people do it. That's a small thing that I've learned that's made a big impact in my life, knowing that I don't always have to say things and I don't always have to vent to someone or argue with someone just because I think they are wrong and try to prove myself right. Because trying to prove myself right, like it just gives me this like false validation, false sense of gratification that I don't even need and that doesn't even help me in any way, shape, or form. Arguing with strangers is literally a result of your own ego and people just wanting to be right and they feel entitled to be right. At the end of the day, you're honestly just wasting your time. You're not actually having an intellectual conversation. You're not having your beliefs be challenged. It's just you wasting your time and energy. Instead, keep that energy to yourself. Keep your thoughts to yourself sometimes. Keep your feelings and your emotions within you because the right people will come to have those conversations at the right time. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys took something away. I know this was kind of all over the place. I didn't really prepare for this. I just had this quick thought and I thought I would start talking. Oftentimes when I do that, it doesn't come out good, but I feel like today wasn't so bad. If you guys enjoyed this, share it with a friend. Follow me on socials at the Korea Pact Podcast and leave me a 4 or 5 star review. It will help me out a ton. Take care. Tell someone that you love them and go do something nice for someone today because they genuinely deserve it. All right, people. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.